In the vast expanse of the Pacific, where the fate of nations hung in the balance, one aircraft soared above the rest, not for its speed or glamour, but for its sheer tenacity. The Douglas SBD Dauntless, a humble dive bomber, Midway, became the unsung hero of World War II's Pacific theater. Known to its crews as slow but deadly, this rugged machine delivered precision strikes that turned the tide of battle, most notably at Midway in June 1942. Its story is one of ingenuity, courage, and an unwavering commitment to duty. Let's dive into the tale of the Dauntless, a plane that proved even the slowest could strike with devastating force. To understand this aircraft, we must travel back to the late 1930s, when the United States Navy sought a new scout bomber to replace its outdated biplanes. The Douglas Aircraft Company, based in El Segundo, California, rose to the challenge under the leadership of designer Ed Heinemann. Heinemann, a visionary engineer, had already made his mark with innovative designs, but the Dauntless would be his masterpiece. The project began as an evolution of the Northrop BT-1, a monoplane developed by John Northrop's team before Douglas acquired Northrop's division in 1937. The BT-1, redesignated as the SBD-1, took its first flight on August 25, 1938, showcasing a bold new approach to naval aviation. The Navy's requirements were clear. They needed an aircraft capable of scouting vast ocean expanses and delivering precise dive bombing attacks on enemy ships. Dive bombing was a high-risk tactic, requiring pilots to plunge at steep angles toward their targets, releasing bombs at low altitudes for maximum accuracy. The SBD-1 featured a robust all-metal airframe, a retractable landing gear, and perforated dive flaps, innovations that allowed it to maintain control during near-vertical dives. These flaps, often called dive brakes, were a stroke of genius, slowing the aircraft to prevent excessive speed while ensuring stability. However, early tests revealed issues with engine performance and structural integrity, prompting Heinemann's team to refine the design. Building a new aircraft wasn't cheap, and Douglas had to navigate tight budgets and skeptical Navy officials. One might imagine Heinemann joking that convincing the Navy was harder than designing the plane itself. The team worked tirelessly at Douglas's El Segundo facility, conducting wind tunnel tests and structural analyses to address these challenges. By 1940, the refined SBD-1 was ready for service, first delivered to Marine Corps squadrons at Quantico, Virginia. Unlike later models, the SBD-1 lacked self-sealing fuel tanks, a critical feature for combat survivability. The Navy quickly ordered the SBD-2, which increased fuel capacity but still lacked self-sealing tanks. Production began at Douglas's El Segundo plant, with 57 SBD-1s and 87 SBD-2s built by early 1941. The real breakthrough came with the SBD-3, introduced in March 1941, which incorporated self-sealing tanks, increased armor, and 4 machine guns, 2 forward-firing .50 caliber guns and 2 rear-mounted .30 caliber guns operated by the gunner. This variant, with 584 units produced, became the backbone of Navy and Marine Corps operations as the United States entered World War II. The development wasn't without setbacks. Early prototypes suffered from engine overheating and landing gear malfunctions, requiring extensive testing at Naval Air Station Anacostia in Washington, D.C. By late 1941, the SBD-3 was proving its worth, but the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, thrust the Dauntless into the spotlight. Just 3 days later, on December 10, an SBD from the USS Enterprise sank the Japanese submarine 170, marking the first enemy vessel sunk by an American aircraft in the war. This early success hinted at the Dauntless's potential, but its true test lay ahead. As the Pacific War escalated, Douglas continued to refine the Dauntless. The SBD-4, introduced in 1942, featured a 24-volt electrical system, a new propeller, and improved fuel pumps, with 780 units built. The SBD-5, the most produced variant, with 2,965 units, boasted a 1,200 horsepower Wright R182060 Cyclone engine and increased ammunition capacity. Production shifted to Douglas's new plant in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to meet wartime demand. The final variant, the SBD-6, with a 1,350 horsepower engine, saw 450 units built before production ended on July 21, 1944. In total, 5,936 Dauntlesses rolled off the assembly lines, a testament to Douglas's industrial prowess. The Dauntless's design was a marvel of practicality and resilience. Its wingspan stretched 41 feet 6 inches, with a length of 33 feet 1 inch and a height of 13 feet 7 inches. The empty weight was 6,404 pounds, with a maximum takeoff weight of 10,700 pounds. Powered by a single Wright R1820 Cyclone radial engine, the SBD-5 could reach a maximum speed of 255 miles per hour at 14,000 feet and cruise at 185 miles per hour. Its range of 1,115 miles allowed it to cover vast Pacific distances, while a service ceiling of 25,530 feet gave it flexibility in combat. The aircraft's most iconic feature was its perforated dive flaps, located on the trailing edge of the wings. These flaps, extending to increase drag, allowed pilots to dive at angles up to 70 degrees while maintaining control. Without them, the Dauntless would have been uncontrollable in a dive, risking structural failure or pilot blackout. Ascending to 15,000 feet, the pilot would open the flaps, align the aircraft with the target, and release the bomb at 2,000 to 2,500 feet. The pullout was a grueling 4G maneuver, requiring pilots to use anti-G straining techniques to avoid blacking out. Hopefully, they had a strong breakfast to handle that kind of force. The cockpit was spacious for its era, accommodating a pilot and a rear gunner. The pilot's seat was adjustable, with standard instruments for navigation and engine management. The rear gunner operated a flexible mount with 1 or 2.30 caliber machine guns, providing defense against enemy fighters. The Dauntless could carry up to 1,000 pounds of bombs, typically a single 500-pound bomb under the fuselage and 2 100-pound bombs under the wings. Later variants could also carry depth charges or torpedoes, enhancing its versatility. Compared to contemporaries like the Japanese Aichi D3 Aval, the Dauntless was slower but more robust, with a sturdier airframe that could withstand the rigors of carrier operations. Its all-metal construction, using duralumin, provided strength without excessive weight, though early models were prone to fuel leaks. Nothing a good mechanic couldn't patch up, assuming they didn't mind a bit of a fuel-scented breeze. The landing gear, retractable via a hydraulic system, was a significant improvement over fixed-gear predecessors, though early versions occasionally jammed, requiring manual cranking by the pilot. Hopefully, they kept a wrench handy for those stubborn moments. The Dauntless's control surfaces, including ailerons and elevators, were fabric-covered, balancing weight and responsiveness, though this made them vulnerable to battle damage. Despite these quirks, the Dauntless's design struck a balance between simplicity and effectiveness, making it a reliable platform for its crews. The Dauntless's operational history is a saga of valor and precision. By December 1941, 10 Navy squadrons were equipped with SBDs, stationed aboard carriers like the USS Enterprise, USS Yorktown, and USS Hornet. The aircraft's first major test came at the Battle of the Coral Sea in May 1942, where SBDs from the USS Lexington and USS Yorktown sank the Japanese carrier Shoho and damaged the Shokaku. Lieutenant John Lepla and his gunner John Liska demonstrated the Dauntless's surprising air-to-air prowess, downing 4 and 3 Japanese aircraft, respectively, during the battle. The Dauntless's 3.2-to-1 air combat ratio was a testament to its rugged design and skilled crews. The Battle of Midway, fought from June 4 to June 7, 1942, was the Dauntless's defining moment. On the morning of June 4, 32 SBDs from Scouting Squadron 6 and Bombing Squadron 6, led by Lieutenant Commander Clarence Wade McCluskey from the USS Enterprise, launched from a point 160 miles northeast of Midway Atoll. Navigating by dead reckoning, after losing contact with their carrier's homing signal, McCluskey's squadron spotted the Japanese carrier Kaga at 10:22 in the morning. Diving from 15,000 feet, they scored multiple hits, setting Kaga ablaze. Simultaneously, SBDs from the USS Yorktown struck the Soryu, and later that day, Lieutenant Commander Richard Halsey Best led a section that hit the Akagi, contributing to its destruction. By day's end, the Hiryu was also sunk, with Norman Dusty Kleiss scoring direct hits on both Kaga and Hiryu. Kleiss, the only pilot to achieve 3 direct hits during the battle, was awarded the Navy Cross for his actions. The Dauntless continued to shine in the Guadalcanal campaign, operating from Henderson Field on Guadalcanal Island. Marine Scout bombing squadrons 141 and 132 under harsh conditions supported ground troops and attacked Japanese shipping. On August 7, 1942, SBDs engaged Japanese forces during Operation Watchtower, with pilots like Stanley Swede Vetasa fending off Mitsubishi A-6 M20 fighters. Vetasa, attacked by 3 Zeros over Tulagi, shot down 2 and damaged the 3rd with his wingtip in a daring head-on pass. His actions, and those of other Dauntless crews, helped secure Allied control of the Solomon Islands. Navigating through tropical storms and anti-aircraft fire was no picnic. Crews often joked they needed a weatherman as much as a gunner. In the Atlantic, SBDs participated in Operation Torch in November 1942, supporting landings in North Africa, and Operation Leader in October 1943, targeting German shipping off Norway. The Dauntless's versatility extended to anti-submarine patrols, with SBDs from the USS Core sinking U-boats in the Atlantic. Madrid. By 1943, the Curtiss SB-2C Helldiver began replacing the Dauntless, but the older aircraft's reliability kept it in service. The Battle of the Philippine Sea in June 1944 marked its last major combat role, though it continued in training and secondary missions until the war's end. One memorable incident occurred on February 18, 1944, when an SBD-2P used for reconnaissance suffered carburetor icing over Lake Michigan during a training flight from Naval Air Station, Glenview, Illinois. The pilot managed a safe landing on the frozen lake, and the aircraft was recovered on June 19, 2009, now displayed at the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum. Another SBD-4, Bureau number 06833, crashed in Lake Michigan on August 24, 1944, after an engine failure during carrier qualification aboard the USS Sable. Recovered in 1990, it resides at the National Naval Aviation Museum, a preserved relic of its underwater sojourn. The Dauntless also served with the U.S. Army Air Forces as the A-24 Banshee, with 948 units built. The 27th Bombardment Group received 52 A-24s in 1941, intended for the Philippines, but diverted to Australia. The 91st Bombardment Squadron used them in the Dutch East Indies, attacking Bali in February 1942, while the 8th Bombardment Squadron defended New Guinea. The A-24B, equivalent to the SBD-5, saw action in the Gilbert Islands from Makin Island between December 1943 and March 1944. By 1947, remaining A-24s were redesignated F-24 Banshees and scrapped by 1950. Internationally, the Free French received about 80 SBD-5s and A-24Bs in 1944, using them as trainers and for close support in the Indochina War from the carrier Aramache AS. The Royal New Zealand Air Force's No. 25 Squadron operated SBD-3s, SBD-4s, and SBD-5s in the Solomon Islands, later transitioning to F-4U Corsairs. Other operators included Chile, Mexico, Morocco, and the United Kingdom, with the Dauntless serving until Mexico retired it in 1959. The Dauntless's legacy is one of understated brilliance. It sank 6 Japanese carriers, 1 battleship, 3 cruisers, 1 submarine, and 14 transports, nearly 30% of Japan's pre-war naval tonnage. Its pilots and gunners like Kleiss, Best, and Vestasa embodied the courage that defined the era. Today, surviving Dauntlesses, such as the SBD-3 at the National World War II Museum and the SBD-2P at Pearl Harbor, stand as testaments to its impact. The aircraft's story even inspired scenes in films like Midway, released in 2019, capturing its pivotal role for new generations. So next time you see a Dauntless in a museum, give it a nod. It may have been slow, but it was undeniably deadly, and its crews were the true heroes of the skies.